Good morning, everyone. We are Group 5 presenting our sixth sustainability. So, now for executive summary, all six initiatives deliver negative max, saving money while cutting carbon. Combined, they generate approximately EGP 20.9 billion in NPV and abate 36.9 million tons of CO2 over 26 years. Alternate water use leads financially at AGP 1138 billion NPV, while green MSW treatment dominates on carbon at 30 million plus ton carbon dioxide abated. Every initiative offers either immediate payback or a strong IRR, all aligned to Egypt's 2030 NDC commitments. So, why Egypt? Cairo is one of the fastest growing urban construction markets in the world. Egypt's population exceeds 102 million, with the Cairo metro alone at around 22 million people. The construction sector is growing at 6 to 8% annually, with over 1 million new housing units planned by 2030. Critically, Egypt's built environment consumes approximately 40% of national electricity, and Egypt has made firm international commitments as COP27 host. Egypt's NDC targets a 33% reduction in GHG emission by 2030, supported by a Green Building Code and Vision 2030. That policy environment makes this exactly the right moment for the MAC framework to identify where investments should go.
I'm Kathleen and I'll be presenting the District Cooling Initiative. At its core, this means replacing 50 conventional air-cooled chiller units across Cairo's commercial district with a single centralized chiller plant. Under business as usual, those 50 chillers operate at a coefficient of performance of 3, consuming significant energy at an annual OPEX of EGP 28 million per unit. The proposed pathway upgrades to a district cooling plant with an energy efficiency ratio of 4 to 5, serving all buildings from one central facility, dramatically reducing both energy consumption and operating costs. Looking at the financials, the BEU scenario requires EGP 500 million in chiller replacement capex, with annual OPEX across all 50 units of totaling EGP 1.4 billion per year. The district cooling plant requires a higher upfront investment of EGP 1.25 billion, but cuts annual OPEX to EGP 844 million, a net saving of EGP 558.5 million every single year. On carbon, over the 25-year model period, the BAU scenario emits just over 5 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent. The district cooling initiative reduces that to just over 3 million tons, abating 2,018,569 tons. The emission factor used is the IEA's 2025 Egypt grid factor of 0.45 kilograms of carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour. The financial case is strong. The NPV over 2025 to 2050 is EGP 4.43 billion. The IRR is 2.92%, and the simple payback period is just 1.34 years, which is an excellent recovery period for infrastructure of this scale. The MAC is negative 2,197 EGP per ton of carbon dioxide equivalent, meaning district cooling generates a financial return of EGP 2,197 for every ton of carbon avoided. That negative MAC is a key signal. This initiative is a no-regret investment. Our sensitivity analysis tested energy tariff scenarios from EGP 2 to EGP 3 per kilowatt hour. Even in the worst case, NPV remains in the region of negative EGP 188 billion, and in the best case, it delivers EGP 4.43 billion. The social MAC, which incorporates the social cost of carbon, is even more favorable at negative 3,563. Our model runs from 2025 to 2050 25 years, using a WACC of 10% and CPI of 10.1% from the Central Bank of Egypt. NPV is calculated by discounting both capex and opex streams at the WACC, and MAC is derived as a negative NPV divided by total carbon dioxide emitted. To summarize, EGP 4.43 billion NPV, 2 million tons emitted, 1.34-year payback, and full alignment with Egypt's NDC 2013.
My initiative is alternative water use. The business as usual scenario has covered commercial sector using 100% potable water at 12 Egyptian pounds per cubic meter with zero water recycling. The proposed pathways install on-site treated sewage effluent or TSE treatment plants replacing 40% of potable water demand with recycled TSE at just 3 Egyptian pounds per cubic meter. This is water security intervention as much as the carbon one, particularly critical given Egypt's Nile water stress and growing urban demand. Financially, the BAU scenario has zero upfront capital expenditure but costs 1,737,000,000 Egyptian pounds per year in water tariffs. The initiative requires a modest 80 million Egyptian pounds capital investment in the treatment plant, reducing annual operational expenditure to 1,221,000,000 Egyptian pounds, a net saving of 516.7 million Egyptian pounds per year. On carbon, potable water has an emission factor of 0.01 2 tons of carbon dioxide per cubic meter, while recycled TSE drops that to the 0.0003. 126 years, this difference translated to 3,746,368 tons of carbon dioxide abated. The second highest abatement of any initiative is this portfolio. Alternative water use has the strongest financial profile of all 6 initiatives. Net present value is 11.38 billion Egyptian pounds, the highest in the portfolio. The internal rate of return is effectively immediate, and the simple payback period is just 0.15 years, approximately 7 weeks. This is almost unheard of for infrastructure investment. The marginal abatement cost curve value is negative 3,037 Egyptian pounds per ton, making it the most cost-effective initiative on a per ton of carbon basis. Sensitivity analysis tested the water tariffs between 8 and 15 Egyptian pounds per cubic meter. Even at the lowest tariffs, net present value remains at 6.85 billion Egyptian pounds. This initiative is robustly profitable across all scenarios. Consistent with our framework, the modest uses a 26-year time horizon, a 10% weighted average cost of capital, and 10.1% consumer price index. Key data sources include the NUCA, Egypt Water Tariff Schedule 2024, and the Bureau Hapid MAC briefing pack. To summarize, 11.38 billion Egyptian pounds net present value, the highest of all 6 initiatives. 3.75 million tons abated, a 7-week payback period. And a marginal abatement cost curve value of a negative 3,037. This is our top ranked initiative for immediate development.
My name is Sarah, and I'm presenting the Recycle Steel Initiative. Egypt's construction pipeline is worth $565.5 billion, minus third largest market, growing at 7.6% per year, driven by the new administrative capital and 20 new cities under Vision 2052. Under business as usual BAU, structural steel comes from blast furnace production. 2 tons of CO2 per ton of steel at EGP 35,264 per ton. No scrap is used, no circular economy benefit. Our initiative increases recycled content from 15% to 60% using electric arc furnace technology through three pathways. P1, Egyptian steel at 30% scrap. P2, Egyptian steel at 60% scrap. And P3, ArcelorMittal X-Carb, reaching 75% scrap with just zero point 0.3 tons of CO2 per ton. That's a 70 to 80% reduction versus BAU. The outcome, EGP 77.7 million in capex savings and 22,319 tons of CO2 abated. Now the detailed numbers. On capex, BAU steel costs EGP 35,264 per ton. Recycled EAF steel from Egyptian steel costs EGP 18,500, a saving of EGP 16,764 per ton. Over a 10,000 ton project, that's EGP 167.6 million saved immediately. Scaled over our 26-year model period, total capex drops from EGP 821.3 million to EGP 743.6 million, a net saving of EGP 77.7 million. There is no OPEX difference, all the savings are capex driven. On carbon, BAU emits 46,870 tons of CO2 equivalent over 26 years. The initiative reduces that to 24,551, abating 22,319 tons of 47.6% reduction. Part 3 with X-Carb goes even further to just 0.3 ton per ton of steel. Emission factors are sourced from World Steel Association and ArcelorMittal's X-Carb documentation. The NPV of this initiative is EGB 26.66 million, positive across the full 26-year model at a 10% WACC. The payback period is immediate. Unlike most sustainability investments, recycled EAF steel is cheaper upfront than virgin steel, so there is nothing to recover. The MAC, marginal abatement cost curve value, is negative 1,195 EGP per ton of CO2. Negative MAC means the project saves money while cutting carbon. That makes recycled steel a no regret investment. It is both financially and environmentally beneficial. Our sensitivity analysis tested steel price variation of plus or minus 10 to 20%. Worst case NPV EGP 21.75 million. Base case EGP 26.66 million. Best case EGP 35.39 million. The financial case is robust under every scenario. This slide summarizes the initiative visually. On the left, the carbon abatement chart. BAU at 46,870 tons, the initiative at 24,551 and 22,319 tons abated in green. That green bar is the environmental value we're delivering. On the right, capex comparison. BAU at EGP 821 million, initiative at EGP 744 million with EGP 26.66 million in NPV savings. The MAC card on the lower left shows negative 1,195, confirming this saves money and reduces carbon simultaneously, and the sensitivity panel shows the NPV range from EGP 21.75 to EGP 35.39 million, all positive. Our model covers 2025 to 2050, 26 years using a 10% WACC aligned with the USD Green Sukuk framework. The carbon price is EGP 1000 per ton based on Egypt's EGX voluntary carbon market. Egypt's 2026 grid emission factor is 0.45 tons CO2 per megawatt hour. Suppliers are Egyptian Steels, EAF 80% scrap, Ain Sokhna for P1 and P2, and ArcelorMittal Xcarb for P3. The exchange rate used is EGP 52.22 to the dollar, CBE May 2026. Key findings: NPV of EGP 26.66 million, financially positive, 22 319 tons CO2 abated, 47.6% reduction versus BAU. MAC of negative 1195, third most cost efficient of all six initiatives. Payback immediate. Capex saving EGP 77.7 million, and strategically this aligns with Egypt Vision 2030 and the new administrative capital program. To close, our MAC is negative NPV divided by total CO2 abated. Recycled steel delivers a positive NPV, immediate payback, and a 47.6% carbon reduction, making it a clear, no regret initiative aligned with Egypt's NDC 2030 and Vision 2030.
Hello everyone. My name is Dev Mehbubani and my student ID is 8248035. I'll be talking about EV charging in Egypt. This is my initiative related to mobility, and the basic sense is that we'll be building EV infrastructure which encourages and facilitates the use of EV vehicles. And the idea is just simple, that more EV use is more CO2 abated, which leads to a better earth and better quality of life. So the proposed way is that we'll be installing the exact number of 4115 AC level 2 chargers in 2026 year. And this is because we have taken this 4115 number from Goal C, because this helps us to meet our goal by 2036, which is 100% utilization. And uh, we have uh, we have a 10% annual increase for controlled capex, for controlling capex, and for better utilization ratio. We'll be using every charger for not more than 16 hours per day, and there will be 100% utilization in 2035, 99 point something percent, 99 point something percent utilization, and there will be more than 125% utilization ratio in 2036, after which we will be shutting down our business and stopping all the services. So the capex is 229.35 million for the first year, and OPEX per year is 73.5 million for the first year, and the net OPEX saving is basically revenue, so 3969.9 million per year. On the right hand side, we can see that there is business as usual emissions and initiative emissions, and we have basically their difference is the CO2 abated, and this figure is in tons of CO2 emitted. Also, the table on the right side is just the tabular version of this graph. And we have used some factors like grid factor, which is 0.45. This is taken from a valid source on internet. In fact, all these figures are either assumed by us if stated, and or they have been taken from valid sources on the internet. The EV efficiency is 17.5 uh, kilowatt per hour per 100 kilometer, and there are about 7,000 EVs in Egypt, which will be rising with the rate of 39.5% yearly. If we talk about the financial viability of this project, its net present value is 374.5 million Egyptian pound. Internal rate of return being 34.02%. Simple payback is 6.7 years, and the discounted payback, which considers time value of money, is a bit more, 6.8 or 9 years. Also, the marginal abatement cost of capital is negative 846 Egyptian pound per ton of CO2 saved. So this way we do our earnings. Uh, and for the sensitivity analysis, we can clearly see that the tariff we impose, the tariff that the government impose leads to a change in the NPV for our project. Lower tariff means low NPV, higher tariff means high NPV, and this is because of a simple law by the Egyptian government that there should be not more than 45% of the tariff imposed as additional tariff for I mean, putting it simply, the electricity rate that we charge at our charging station should be not more than 45% of the tariff that the Egyptian government charges for the people. So that 45% figure becomes more if the tariff is high and becomes low if the tariff is low. And that leads to a better NPV because it leads to more profits and more margin with which we can sell our electricity with. Also, we'll be talking about methodology and key findings. So we have taken some methods and assumptions. Model period is 12 years and the WACC is 18%. We have stated that in input constants. We found this after a research on internet. And the CPI for this for the Egyptian for Egypt in general is 10.1 consumer price index. Uh, the currency is Egyptian pound and the NPV formula is as stated. The MAC is minus negative NPV divided by total CO2 awaited, and it is the basically industrial and commercial sector in Cairo, in Egypt. And I'll be talking about the key findings now, which is NPV of EGP 374.5 million, which says that it is a strong confirmed economic case, and there will be 442,521 tons of CO2 abated over 26 years, which means this is environmentally friendly as well, and it is cost effective because the MAC is all negative. Also, the simple payback period is 6.7 years, which is acceptable for recovery, and strategic plans align with Egypt NDC 2030 and Vision 2030. So that was my part, and thank you for listening.
Moving on to the Green MSW Treatment Initiative. My name's Ishika and I'll be walking you through this one. So basically, Cairo has a massive waste problem. Up to 20,000 tons of garbage every single day just gets dumped in the desert 50 kilometers away, rotting and releasing methane, which is 28 times worse than carbon dioxide. There are 625 trucks all every year just burning 368 million Egyptian pounds in just diesel to get it there. So, what we are proposing is a 5,000 ton per day plant at Abor City that turns all the waste into money. There'll be two streams, two revenue lines, and the Zabelin conductors will also get formally employed through tipping fees. So, here is a diagram of I have made to the help of Gemini AI of how it works, how the will work. So over here you can see that the waste, it comes in through the Greater Cairo and it is brought to the plant where when you can see that the Zeppelin workers will be differentiating the wet waste and the dry waste. And the reason why we have given this to the Zeppelin workers is because they are already in use to doing this work. So this will also save us training fees. So now from the wet organic waste goes to the anaerobic digesters where the efficiency of the where the biogas power generates the engines generate the clean electricity which is then sold to the national grid at the FIT rates. And on the dry waste stream, you can see that it is separated through magnetic separators and shredding machines, and it is sent to the RDF production of pelletizing. From there, the RDF pellets are prepared to be sold to the cement factories. So RDF are refuse derived stool pellets made through from the dry waste, and it is used as coal for the cement factories. Now coming on to the capex, opex, and the carbon abatement. The capex is a little bit higher for this project. It's coming up to 8.89 billion Egyptian pounds, but the plant generates 1,230 million Egyptian pounds in revenue against the 452 Egyptian pounds in the costs in the OPEX, which if you see, we are actually net positive of 778 million Egyptian pounds per year from the operations. And on the carbon, we are abating over 30.18 million tons of carbon dioxide over the entire 26 years compared to the BAU. So currently in the BAU, there is no carbon dioxide abated much because it is all just being dumped. So there is more of the generation compared uh, to the abatement. That's why the abatement is on a higher level. Financial viability, the NPV is of 4.20 billion, and the IRR is comes up to 18.45% against the WACC, which is of 10%. The payback is after 3 years will be able to get the payback in by 2027. The MAC is negative 290, which means that we are making 290 Egyptian pounds per carbon dioxide abated while reducing the emissions. So there is no trade off between the profit and the impact. Revenue is 70% for RDF and 30% for electricity. Now, the reason why I had showed you the diagram in the starting is because both the facilities are different. So, 70% the RDF is a separate market and the electricity is a separate market. So, even if one dips, the other one covers for it. And over here, we can see that the electricity covers 30% and the RDF is covers the 70% of the revenue. And because of the two different markets and the two different systems, that is why the sensitivity analysis is also uh, in two different tables. As we can see over here, that even in the worst case, if the RDF drops to 1,000 Egyptian pounds per ton, the NP will still come at 976 million, which is a positive. And the FIT rate, if it goes to the worst case, it also gives us 3.6 billions. And I have also calculated and found out that all these scenarios, whether it's the worst or it's the best, or even if it's at the base one, makes you a profitable top is profitable and the payback will be within the 4 years across all. So both the risks are also independent. So if even if they fail, if the project was supposed to be very threatening, it should both of the projects are supposed to fail for the entire project to fail. So just to wrap it up, the model runs over 26 years and the WACC is of 10%, all in the Egyptian pounds. And honestly, the numbers they speak for themselves: 4.20 billion NPV and 18.45% IRR. And it's also there's a social there's not it's not very financially strong like the capex is very high, but it has a very strong social impact angle. And we can also see that the SMACC, which is the social MAC, comes at to minus 789, which has a very big difference compared to the MAC, and that is because of the important social cause of the billions infrastructure of the project. And it is financially strong, environmentally significant.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malika. Let's talk about plastic and paper waste reduction. Right now, Cairo's commercial and industrial buildings are generating a large amount of plastic and paper waste, which directly goes to the landfills. This initiative establishes an on-site segregation material recovery system across the commercial sector, where waste is separated at source into plastic and paper streams, collected separately and sold to certified recyclers. Because of this, 60% of plastic waste and 50% of paper waste is diverted from landfill entirely. The BAU problem. Under business as usual, 12,000 tons of plastic and 16,000 tons of paper are landfilled every single year. That generates 50,400 tons of CO2 equivalent annually just because of these two waste streamlines. And the sector pays 16.8 million Egyptian pounds per year just for the privilege of disposing materials that have significant resale value. So the proposed pathway would be that the initiative will require only 80 million Egyptian pounds in upfront capex, covering all the segregation infrastructures, baling equipment, and collection logistics. Once this initiative is operational, 7,200 tons of plastic and 8,000 tons of papers are recovered annually and sold to recyclers. The disposal cost of 16.8 million Egyptian pounds per year is not only eliminated, but the operations flip to net revenue positive at 32.32 million Egyptian pounds per year. This is directly aligned with Egypt's national solid waste management strategy and the government's push to formalizing the recycling economy. Now, moving on to the environmental and financial impacts, this initiative requires an initial investment of 80 million Egyptian pounds in order to establish recycling infrastructures and collection system. Right now, waste disposal costs around 16.8 million Egyptian pounds per year, but after the implementation, this project becomes revenue positive through the sale of recovered materials, which will generate an annual savings of approximately 49 million Egyptian pounds. Now, environmentally, emissions decrease from 1.31 million tons of CO2 equivalent under the BAU scenario to around 757,000 tons after implementation. Now, as you can see in the graph, this result in a total carbon reduction of 553,280 tons of CO2 equivalent over the project period. Now, moving on to the financial viability, we can see that this project achieves a net present value of 450 million Egyptian pounds, which means that it generates substantial long-term financial benefits. The payback period is only 1.3 years, which also means that the initial investment can be recovered in less than 2 years. We can also see that the MAC value is negative 813 Egyptian pounds per ton of CO2 avoided, which means that the initiative saves money while also reducing emissions, making it a cost-effective, sustainable investment. In this slide, we can see that the sensitivity analysis demonstrate that even if recycling market prices fluctuate, the project remains financially attractive, highlighting the robustness of the investment. Now, in conclusion, this initiative was assessed over a 26-year period from 2025 to 2050 using the Bureau Happard MAC framework. The key findings for the initiative plastic and paper waste reduction shows an NPV of 450 million Egyptian pounds, reduces emissions by more than 553,000 tons of CO2 equivalent, and achieves a negative MAC value of 813 Egyptian pounds per ton. In addition to all of this, the project has a short payback period of only 1.63 years, which is less than 2 years, and strongly supports Egypt's nationally determined contributions and Vision 2030 sustainable goals. Overall, plastic and paper waste reduction is a practical, low cost, and financially attractive initiative that provides both environmental and economic benefits for Egypt.
Now that we have gone through all the six individually, let's see how they compare. A few stand out immediately, such as alternate water use has the highest NPV at 11.4 billion, which essentially has a 7-week payback, and its rated high ease of implementation means that it will be very quick to deploy and has very minimal friction and issues or bottlenecks that will be arriving with it. District cooling sits at 4.4 billion NPV and has a strong carbon abatement, which is also on the higher ease, which and the EV charging has a solid NPV with an IRR of 34% and a medium ease, which is still doable. And the green MSVW has the highest capex, yes, but 30 million tons of carbon is also abated, which is the largest in the entire portfolio, rated medium ease. We have rated it as medium, but if you see it on the long term commitment, the returns justify it better. Then on the bottom line across all six, every single value is negative, which means that every initiative saves money while cutting emissions, and most of them are high ease of implementation, so there is no reason to not move on to these
at all. Coming forward to the MAC chart, this chart puts everything into perspective. All six are negative MAC, which means all six are profitable while cutting carbon, but the spread is interesting. So, alternative water use and district cooling are significantly more cost effective per ton. Recycled steel and EV charging and plastic paper sit comfortably in the middle, and green MSW is at the end. But honestly, for a project processing 5,000 tons of waste daily and has a big infrastructure, there is still a strong result where it abates 30 million tons over the 26 years. So different projects and different scales have different purposes, but we can see that all of them are negative. So all of them work and will provide are profitable while you cut the carbon. So when you rank them holistically, MAC, NPV, abatement volume, and payback, alternate water use comes out on the top, generally expects exceptional across every metric. Then you have district cooling coming at the second. The recycled steel punches above its weight with immediate payback and minimal investment. EV charging brings a 34% IRR and long term relevance as Egypt's transport sector is shifting. And the plastic and paper waste revenue positive from operations has a 1.6-year payback and is very simple to implement as well. And then we have green MSW at the sixth. The timeline is longer and the capex is higher, but it has a much higher environmental scale, which is why we keep it on the long term. And we have plastic paper and medium term. EV charging and recycled steel have a short term range, and district cooling and alternative water use can be implemented immediately. Okay, so moving on to the roadmap and recommendations now for Egypt, we have broken this down into three phases. Starting with the short term, we want to put alternative water use first because it gives the fastest payback. We just want products that get our cash flowing back to us quick right at the start. At the same time, we are kicking off our transition to the recycled steel. The goal is that by the end of the term, all our new construction projects will be using recycled steel. We are also going to be begin feasibility and tendering for the district cooling plant. Basically, we are just studying if building one massive centralized cooling system makes financial sense instead of using normal ACs, and we'll start getting quotes from contractors. Then comes the medium phase, which is from 2027 to 2030. Our district cooling plant will be fully operating by then, which will save a lot on utility costs. We'll also be going to scale up our EV charging stations, targeting a real solid IRR of 34% here. This fits perfectly with what Egypt is trying to implement by 2030 for their national green transition. Also, in this phase, we are launching the plastic and paper waste recovery program. Like we saw in the waste data earlier, plastic and paper makes a huge chunk of trash. This program just sets up a proper sorting system so we can salvage those materials and sell them directly back to the factories for revenue. Then we have the long term phase, which is from 2030 to 2050. This is where we commission our main municipal solid waste treatment, which is an MSW treatment plant, which basically we'll be commissioning, which means we will be officially turning the plant on and start full commercial operations so we can start earning properly from it. On the environmental side, we can achieve an abatement of 30.2 million metric tons of carbon emissions just from the municipal waste alone. And by locking this in, our product successfully integrates all six pathways under the Egypt's net zero strategy, which means we are checking every single box on the country's official roadmap for a sustainable future. I will be handing this over to Kathleen now.
On ranking, alternate water use takes the top spot, highest NPV, best MAC, lowest capex, fastest payback. District cooling and plastic and paper follow closely as strong second place performers, and while green MSW treatment ranks lower financially, it leads in absolute carbon abatement, making it a priority if policy goals shift towards maximum emissions reduction. Together, these six initiatives form a financially proven NDC-aligned roadmap for decarbonizing Egypt's built environment by 2050. Every initiative in this analysis saves money. Every initiative reduces carbon. That is a core finding. Across all six initiatives, the portfolio delivers a combined NPV of EGP 20.9 billion, abase 36.9 million tons of carbon dioxide, and every single one returns a negative mark, confirming that Egypt's path to net zero is not a financial burden, it is an economic opportunity.